Riding through the scorching Arizona desert, Jack Red Callahan, knew this wasn't just another bounty. The sun blazed overhead as I guided my horse, Dusty, toward Deadwood, a small mining town with a big problem. I was after Carter Black Snake McGraw, an outlaw as notorious as they come, and the bounty on his head was enough to let me retire for good. Deadwood wasn't like other towns I'd passed through. There was an unsettling quiet in the air, a heaviness that clung to the place. When I rode in, the few folks who dared to walk the streets had fear in their eyes. The saloon was nearly empty, just a few nervous drifters and a bartender with a shaky hand pouring whiskey. I soon learned why. Black Snake had taken control of Deadwood, ruling it with a gang of cutthroats who did his bidding. He wasn't just another outlaw. He was a tyrant, and the town was his kingdom of fear. But it wasn't just the man that scared people. It was the rumors that swirled around him. Some said he had made a pact with the devil, that he wasn't entirely human. I'd heard tall tales before, but something about this felt different. That night, as I planned my move, a woman named Maria approached me. She was a widow, her husband gunned down by Black Snake, and now her brother was held captive by the outlaw. Her desperation cut through me. I'd taken on this job for the money, but now it felt personal. I promised her I'd end Black Snake's reign of terror. The showdown came under a blood-red moon in the center of town. Black Snake was waiting for me, his grin wicked and unnatural. The duel was fast and deadly. My bullet struck true, but the look in his eyes as he fell chilled me to the bone. Even in death, his smile lingered, as if he knew something I didn't. With Black Snake gone, Deadwood breathed a sigh of relief, but I felt no victory. I took the bounty, but it didn't feel like a win. The town had been saved, but at what cost? I realized that this job had taken more out of me than I'd expected. The West was changing, and men like me were fading away, relics of a brutal past. I left Deadwood behind, the weight of my gun heavier than ever. The thrill of the hunt was gone, replaced by the haunting memories of the duel. The West had claimed another piece of my soul, and I wondered how much more I could give before there was nothing left of Jack Callahan, the last of a dying breed. The town of Hollow Creek is the kind of place where secrets don't just linger, they fester. It was twilight when I arrived, riding a horse that looked like it had wandered straight out of a ghost story. The wind howled through the desolate streets, whipping at my long coat. I am known as the Phantom, a title earned through years of myth and whispered stories. My name had long been forgotten, consumed by my quest for vengeance. Tonight, retribution was at hand. I had come for Isaac Thorne, the man who left me for dead and set my family's home ablaze, killing everyone I held dear. Nights were spent with dreams, or rather nightmares, replaying the device of his cruelty. Today, the hunter becomes the hunted, but fate has a twisted sense of humor. As I stalked through the broken-down homes and abandoned shops, I could feel unseen eyes watching me. Each shadow seemed alive, shifting and morphing, as if the town itself was a sentient being, anticipating my every move. I first met Thorne at the dilapidated saloon. He was a shell of the man I remembered, hollow eyes sallow, his once formidable stature reduced to frailty. I drew my revolver, the cold metal a comforting weight in my hand. But just as my finger tightened on the trigger, a child's laugh echoed through the room, hollow and distant like it came from a far-off place. Thorne's lips curled into a grotesque smile, and suddenly the ground beneath us trembled. "You think you know who you are?" he rasped, his voice carrying the weight of years of decay. "You are nothing but a pawn, dancing to the tune of an unseen maestro." In that moment, the walls of the saloon seemed to melt away, revealing a dark void where memories and nightmares swirled together. I glimpsed visions from my past. My wife's face twisted in terror, my children hiding in the closet, my own shattered body crawling from the inferno. And among those visions was a younger version of myself, standing beside Isaac, both of us drenched in blood. Pain shot through my temple, threatening to split my skull. The truth crashed over me like an unrelenting tide. I was not just a victim. I had been a willing accomplice in a world of unimaginable horrors. Thorne began to laugh, a haunting, guttural noise that sent chills down my spine. "You were mine, always mine," he proclaimed. The phantoms of Hollow Creek closed in, their eyes glowing with the truths they held. I had been bound to this fate long before I sought revenge. Realizing my vengeance was merely the final act in a tragic play orchestrated by forces beyond comprehension, I lowered my revolver. Revenge had been my lifeline, but it was now a chain around my neck. The lines between justice and damnation blurred as I stood amidst the ruins of my sins. "What now?" The words slipped from my lips, barely a whisper. "Now," Thorne said, his form fading into the shadows, "you live with it." And so, amidst the hollow cries of an unforgiving past, I emerged into the night, not as the phantom or a seeker of vengeance, but as a man haunted by the truth of who he truly is.
My name is Clara Hunter Reyes, a bounty hunter in the dusty and dangerous territory of New Mexico. In this life, there's no room for fairy tales. Every day is a struggle for survival. When I received the job to capture Samuel the Ghost Torres, a thief who had robbed a bank and vanished into the desert, I knew I had to be cautious. He had an almost supernatural ability to evade capture. Riding my horse, Luna, I ventured into the scorching desert. The dry wind cut against my skin as I searched for clues about his whereabouts. In a cantina, whispers about the ghost reached my ears. They said there was a generous bounty on his head, but warnings about his ruthless nature accompanied those tales. He wasn't just a thief. He had made powerful enemies, and his cunning kept him one step ahead of the law. The clues led me to a small town where people spoke in hushed tones, fearful of what might happen. I met an old cowboy, a former partner of the ghost, who revealed that Samuel was searching for hidden treasure in the nearby mountains. Intrigued, I realized that if I could find it before he did, I could capture the thief and secure the reward. As night fell, I followed his tracks into the mountains. Each step drew me closer to my goal and the dangers lurking in the dark. A sudden sandstorm erupted, and amid the chaos, I found myself face to face with a ghost. His cold, calculating gaze made me feel vulnerable, but I wasn't going to back down. The confrontation was fierce. He was agile and shrewd, but I was determined. During our struggle, I discovered his secret. The treasure he sought was an ancient artifact belonging to his family. Desperately, he had made a pact with dark forces, and the burden of his quest consumed him. In a moment of clarity, I offered him a chance to surrender and leave behind his life of crime. But instead, he lunged at me, and the encounter ended with a gunshot. Samuel fell, his empty gaze reflecting the cost of his choices. With the weight of victory, I carried his body back to town. The reward awaited me, but so did a profound emptiness. As the fame of Hunter grew, I wondered if the true treasure was the freedom I had lost in this pursuit.
Jacob Thorne, a seasoned prospector, tirelessly hunts the legendary vein of shadows, a mythical lode of immense riches. Despite the desert's harshness and the townsfolk's mockery, Jacob is convinced the vein exists. One fateful day, his search leads him to a narrow canyon where he discovers a hidden crevice, possibly the entrance to the fabled vein. Venturing into the darkness, Jacob stumbles upon a vast cavern with a glinting or vein. His excitement turns to terror as the ground violently shakes, causing the tunnel to collapse, trapping him with his discovery. As his lantern flickers out, Jacob loses consciousness, certain of his doom. Miraculously, he awakens by a campfire, rescued by Ayanna, a young Native American woman. She found him at the cave's entrance and nursed him back to health. Driven by the desire to reclaim his discovery, Jacob convinces Ayanna to guide him back to the cave, only to find it sealed by the collapse. Devastated, Jacob begins to doubt the worth of his quest. Ayanna shares her people's legend of the cursed vein, a trap for the greedy. Her words resonate with Jacob, who decides to abandon his obsessive search. She gives him a small, dark stone as a parting gift before he rides away, finally seeing the desert's beauty. Back in town, Jacob finds a small gold nugget, a modest yet satisfying discovery. He settles into a simpler life, content with sharing stories rather than pursuing legends. The dark stone from Ayanna serves as a reminder of the lesson he learned, that true wealth lies in life's simple joys and connections.